What's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on both Twitter and Instagram at BoxingWave10. Hit that bell notification as well. And let's get right into it. Me personally, I do not like when there's a weekend of a lot of fight cards. I can't stand it. Even though I didn't do commentary this last weekend, it was just too many fights. Even trying to do a video review of this weekend's fight was a lot of work because I was able to watch some of the fights because it was a really big basketball. If you're into the NBA, you know how deep in the playoffs we are. And, I was watching, I believe I was watching the Brooklyn game. So I couldn't miss that game for nothing, So I was watching that game, and then you have all these fights, and you don't have like the best fights, but it's a lot of the best fighters that fought this weekend, minus Teofimo Lopez, who had to reschedule his fight card because of him having COVID a few days before the fight, which is not a good look because he already had to reschedule it because he was supposed to fight on the same weekend that Floyd Mayweather fought Logan Paul. So they switched it to this weekend, and this weekend was ridiculous. You had like 18 cards this weekend, and we're gonna go through them, okay? So for the most part, I've seen about 80% of the main fights. All right, I didn't watch all of them, but I watched enough to, be able to review what went down this weekend. And we're going to do all of that in this one video here. And also, this weekend, I will be covering both cards with Tank Davis and the Vasyl Lomachenko cards. I will be covering both. All right. So hopefully the main fight don't overlap each other because I really, really want to see both fights. All right, so we'll get into that. I will hopefully have the breakdowns done by tomorrow. I should be done by tomorrow, okay? I think I might go to my dad's tonight, but I'm going to bring all my stuff with me and I can do the videos while I'm up there, all right? But I'm definitely going to give you a breakdown of the Lomachenko and the Tank Davis fights. All right. I like both fights, by the way. But Tank is going to be pay-per-view Showtime. But we'll get into all of that. All right. Shout out to everyone that's here. Paul L. What's up, Karma? I see your little comment. What's up? Wild Dirt, what's going on? I am PK. What's up? Clarence Peter, what's going on? What's up, everybody that's here? Clarence Peter said, Wave, they said that Lopez couldn't sell tickets. That's why they postponed the fight. Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. This is my thing. And again, if Teofimo Lopez, he has COVID, if it's true, all right? If it's true, get better. All right. If you have COVID, if you tested positive, I don't know the full details. But if it is true, get better. Of course, you shouldn't be fighting if you tested positive for COVID. But we heard that a lot for this past year, and I think people are tired of it. And once I heard it, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest. The first thing I thought was reschedule this shit because we got so many fights this weekend. We have way too many fights. So that's the first thing that came to mind. This is a pay-per-view. You want to put your money, you want to do your numbers. But then you got the Chavez, Anderson Silva thing. You got, a Inoue card. You got an ESPN card, a DAZN card, a Showtime card. There's so much going on this weekend. This is the worst weekend to have your first pay-per-view. It's just the worst one, So a lot of people thought that, and then when I was reading the comments under videos or under the posts, the reports of this fight being postponed, I was reading that a lot of people feel that he couldn't make weight. Like a lot of people left comments like that. I'm sure you guys seen this. I'm actually talking right now. I'm actually talking about Teofimo Lopez rescheduling this fight. a lot of people feel that maybe he couldn't make weight, you know. But the most comments that I read is because of the pay-per-view. You know, reschedule it. It's just a bad weekend. It really was. It really was. All right. But the thing about that is, I think being that it's been postponed twice, it's kind of holding things up, you know, especially with the division. You know, it is what it is. Again, if Tio has COVID, I wish him well. I want him to get better. All right. You know, people were even saying, like, I read comments, oh, he's ducking George. I don't think he's ducking George. Not trying to discredit George because he is a good fighter. All right. He's a good fighter at 135 and everything. I don't think he's ducking George. But if there's any kind of play where this was something that was prepared to avoid having to fight this weekend, I don't think it's weight. I don't think it's him ducking George. I think if anything, if they had to reschedule it and they had to make a move, it was probably because of the weekend that it was. But even on that sense, it's like, damn, they knew all of these fights were going to happen this weekend anyway when they rescheduled it to this weekend. So I don't really want to dig too much into it because, you know, I kind of like going by the book when it comes to the channel. I kind of like to go by the book. And if this is what the report is saying, this is what we're going to roll with. Teofimo Lopez had COVID. He had to reschedule the fight. And we just have to wait until August, I believe. All right. Which really, 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 really sucks, you know. So I wish the kid well. And I can't wait to see him in the ring because, you know, I think he's going to beat George. But I can't wait to see him in the ring with some of these other, whether he fights Lomachenko in a rematch, whatever happens. I know Bob recently came out, said something about him. Probably not going to fight Devin Haney and stuff like that. Most likely he's probably going to fight Lomachenko in a rematch. And there's still the whole Josh Taylor thing is still a possibility. All right. Shout out to everyone that's coming in. Jesus, Abria, Hugo, Jonathan Robinson, Paul Wolf. What's up, everybody? Hope everyone had a great Father's Day. You know, whether you're a father or, you know, if you're close to your dad. You guys know I'm really close to if you've been here for a minute, you guys know I'm really close with my dad. And I pretty much became a boxing fan because of my dad. So I hope everyone enjoyed their Father's Day, had a good weekend and whatnot. Like, so let's listen. Let's get into this. Let's get into the cards. And I think I'm gonna start out with the DAZN card. All right. Let's start out with that. Let me get my notes up here because I want to see. All right, so let's start out with the DAZN card. I did watch the Esparza Zamora Silva fight. It was a pretty good fight between both. I mean, every round was pretty much action-packed. A little controversial with the decision. And boxing is starting to become really, I don't want to say starting because it's been going on for a long time, but more recently, and I've been saying this over and over again, what's up with these scorecards? It's like becoming a routine where there's one judge that has it so wide that it throws off, like, it just disrupts everything. And it makes it look like a robbery because this was a very competitive fight. There was one knockdown in the first round. Esparza got dropped early. And we get these scorecards. It's a 10-round fight. It's a championship fight. And there's one judge in there that had it extremely wide for Esparza, who got knocked down in this fight. And it's very disappointing because now the outcome of the fight becomes about that. You know, especially when the champion loses the title in a very close competitive fight. Now, I don't know how you guys saw it. This fight here was very difficult to score. Just like a few of these fights this weekend. I think this fight was very difficult to score. I thought the Isaac Dogbeg fight, and I'll get to that too, was very difficult to score. And I also thought what was the other fight? There was another fight in here I thought that was really, really tight. I'm looking at the list of fights here. I think there was a third one here somewhere. Oh, the Angelo Leo fight with Alameda. I thought that was a fight that was kind of hard to score too. All right, so those are 3 fights that were hard to score. But this, as far as a Zamora fight, the judge had it too wide. 2 of them had it close. I think one of them had it as a draw. It was very, it sucks that when, I think it could have gone either way, to be honest. I think I scored it when I watched it. I had to go back and watch. I watched some of it on and off, but I think I went back. I watched the rest of it. I had 2 rounds where I scored a draw. And once I do that, I'm just kind of like, you know what? Either way, the fight can go, I thought Esparza's shots was a little cleaner. I thought the commentary was extremely biased towards her. I thought Zamora wasn't really getting much credit for the shots that she was landing. All right, but it was a good fight, and congratulations to Esparza. I think a draw would have been fine with me. I don't think she really won clear, but I'm not mad at the decision of her winning the fight. I'm just mad that one of the judges had it a little too wide, a lot too wide. All right. So this is on the DAZN card that we're going through. So that I thought could have gone either way. It was a close competitive fight. All right. Let's talk about Munguia. We're going to talk about Rosado because I want to sit on that for a minute. Let's talk about Munguia against Szeremeta. Now, Szeremeta stepped in for Selecki. Selecki pulled out of the fight. Selecki was a more respectable opponent. Okay, Szeremeta lost to Triple G. Never seen him fight before that. That was his first test against Triple G. He was stopped in the 7th round, pretty much dominated. And I felt like Triple G really took it easy on him. I felt like Triple G was really trying to get the rounds in. I felt the same way about Steve Rose in that fight. And Szeremeta really didn't have anything for Triple G. But I also thought that Triple G took it easy. He pushed the fight as long as he could. And he stopped him in 7th round. Munguia really dominated Szeremeta. I think Szeremeta maybe gave him a decent first round with his boxing. But Munguia pretty much dominated after that. And Szeremeta stood right in front of him. Again, 2 weeks notice, replacement fighter. Wasn't really expecting much. My whole thing is Munguia did what he had to do. He got him out of here in the 6th round. The thing is, though, and Munguia, he's cool. And we all like to say that he's a fun fighter just to watch. We don't have high expectations of him. Okay, as far as the opposition, he gets a pass. I'll get dizzy. I'll get to the Anderson Silva fight. He gets a pass. I felt that he got a pass at 154 because at 154, you have all these guys on the PBC fighting each other, getting into dangerous fights. Charlo, J-Rock, Hurd, Tony Harrison. You got all these champions fighting, losing, winning belts back, Lara, all of these guys, Castaño, all these guys were getting into tough fights. And Munguia at 154, and I understand that he was young. He was young. He's 21, 22. He beat Saddam Ali, who was a welterweight, right? Saddam Ali moved up to fight Cotto, beat him on his last fight. So Munguia comes in and destroys Saddam Ali, destroys him, right? The thing is, he goes up to 160, got a gift against Dennis Hogan, and I will always bring that up. It was a gift win. I thought Hogan clearly outboxed him, but they were in Mexico, and I get it. That's all right. The great ones have gifts. It is what it is. Even the great ones, they all have gifts. The thing is, though, when are we going to get a real fight with him? Now, Selecki was a good opponent, right? But it's kind of around the same ballpark of what we've been getting for him. Like he fought Liam Smith down at 154, right? So he's still in the same ballpark of what we've been getting from him. Now, I like his fights. They're very entertaining. But when is he going to get challenged? Like, why is he not being held on the same standard as Andrade or Charlo? Or, you know what I'm saying? Why is he not? He's there. He's a champion at 154. And he's right at the top at 160. Why is he not being held at the same standard? I personally am ready for him to fight someone real. You know, Szeremeta was a replacement fighter. Selectly was a good fight. But when is he going to fight someone real? I want to see him fight someone real. Whether it's Andre, Charlo, Eubank Jr., you know, Triple G, Murata. What are the top guys? I know some of these guys are scheduled to fight. I think Triple G is going to be fighting Murata in December, right? But he needs to get held at a higher standard at this point. The guy has almost 40 fights, right? And I know a lot of those fights was probably out in Mexico where he was just fighting a bunch of scrubs for a long time, gaining experience. You know, Canelo, same thing. Canelo in his earlier career, he was really young. I think he went pro at 15. He doesn't have the amateur background. He went pro and did his thing as a professional. Cool. But at some point, Munguia needs a real fight. He did his work at 154, got a pass because his age, because he was fighting over there or HBO, or he wasn't fighting with the PBC at the time. He got a pass at 154, but now we're at 160. Someone really needs to fight this guy at some point. All right. Carmen says Szeremeta gassed so badly he didn't have a choice but to stand and get hit. Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks notice. It's nothing we can really do. He's not a powerful guy. He's not really that well experienced. He fought Triple G in a fight that was pretty much a tune-up for Triple G. You know? Greg Tucker, what's up, bro? Maybe even Billy Joe Saunders. That's not going to happen. Billy Joe Saunders is at 168 at this point, and he may even retire, you know, with that eye injury he has, all right? So we won't be seeing Saunders around for a little bit, all right? But I do agree that Eubank is a great fight for him, yeah. All right, but Munguia, I'm waiting, and I'm ready to see him fight someone real, you know, be into a real fight. All right, it's no more like seeing where he's at. Like, we know what he brings, especially after this weekend, because everyone is talking about Jermall Charlo and how Jermall Charlo had a tough fight with someone that he knocked down in 2 rounds. So if that's the case, if he's fighting at that level and his name is being brought up, he should be fighting some of the very best, some of the champions in the division. What is he waiting for? Charlo, Andre is with the zone. He is with the zone. I know he's a golden boy fighter, but the fight can be made easily. All right. And I'm sure Andre would have no problem with taking that fight. All right. All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about Gabe Rosado. Let's talk about Gabe Rosado knocking out Bektemir Melikuziev. All right. Knocked him out. Don't remember what round it was. All I know is I was watching it live and I was super hyped. Crazy. Definitely my favorite knockout of the year. And let me tell you something. I've been watching Gabe Rosado for a long time, man. I have been watching him for a long time. And I feel like, you know, Gabe, he's had his losses. First of all, his record is very, very deceiving. If you look at it, you look at the amount of wins he has, if you look at the amount of losses he has, you would think that he's not that good. All right. And I know recently, probably before the pandemic, I think he teamed up with Freddie Roach. He had a fight with Daniel Jacobs, a fight that most people think that Gabe won that fight. It seemed like any competitive close fights that he's had, all right, not any, but a lot of them where the fight was, you know, competitive. A lot of people felt that he did enough to win. He never got the nod. He never has. All right. And for him to go up and fight someone that is a bully, all right, fight with someone that's a big dude with a lot of power, is known for his body shots, was able to drop him in the first round and still was coming out the winner and getting one of the craziest knockouts. This is by far his best win. And that's not to take anything from Gabe, because I know he's fighting a guy that's like only 7-0 as a pro. But this is by far his biggest win. You know, if you look back in the Jay Leon Love fight, where, you know, people felt that he edged that fight going back then. Peter Quillen fight where, you know, Peter Quillen was definitely winning, but the cut, they had to stop the fight because of the cut at a point where Gabe was in control of the fight. You know, he was finally figuring out Peter Quillen and outboxing him, and they stopped the fight because of the cut, right? Then you had another fight against Selecki as well, the Selecki fight. Got to bring up the Selecki fight, and a fight where, you know, Selecki was winning. I think he did drop Gabe, and then Gabe finished strong. I think he dropped Selecki a couple times even, maybe, in that fight, and he didn't get the nod there. Not saying he won all of these fights, but what I'm saying is Gabe has always been tough for everybody. You know, I know Triple G put in his work, cut him bad. Triple G definitely won his fight. David Lemieux definitely beat Gabe Rosado as well. You know, but what I'm saying is Gabe always gave tough fights. Daniel Jacobs fight, you know, I already brought that up. Very, very close fight. What he did to Beck, you know, Beck, I look at it like this because he's still young. I think he's only in his mid-20s. I look at it, yes, agree with you, Paul Wolf. Not Paul Wolf. I don't, your name is written in Arabic, so I don't know your name, but my man says he is like the Nate Diaz of boxing with that record, and he is absolutely the best way to put it. The best way to put it. Beck the Bully, he's young, so he has time to improve. All right, he got knocked out. I'm not a guy that's going to just write people off once they lose, especially even if they are knocked out in a dramatic fashion. Beck the Bully, too offensive. He was coming in. His guard is always down. He's ripping to the body. He's very effective. What he does is very effective, but he got carried away. He got carried away. You know, you still gotta respect your opponent. And if you don't, these are the kind of things that can happen. You know, this guy was just rushing in with his head totally exposed, right dead center. He's coming straight in, and he paid the price for it. You know, you got to apply Beck the Bully. You got to be able to learn how to apply smart pressure. You can't just straight rush in there like that, especially with an experienced guy. I am sure that Gabe and Freddie Roach, I'm sure they were preparing for this moment. And even if they weren't, Gabe has the experience to know, like, yo, this guy is doing the same thing over and over again. These pro fighters, you fight guys at a certain level, you got to understand that the engine is running. Like, they're going to figure out a way to get out the situation. And he was still in the fight. I know he got dropped. I know he was hurt. Those body shots were hurting. But you have to be aware that you're fighting a top fighter. This is a world-class fighter. Gabe Rosado is a world-class fighter. He's fought nothing but world-class fighters. All right? Maybe he's never been champion, but he's fought nothing but championship-level fighters and survived against them. Beck the Bully is just rushing in. It's a great fighter to watch. He's very entertaining to watch. I've been watching him maybe about 4 fights in, maybe even his 3rd fight in. I think one of the fights I saw, the first fight I saw him in was one of the cards that I was actually doing commentary for on DAZN. And ever since then, I made sure, you know, I paid attention to him because he's very entertaining fighter to watch. But dude, you just can't rush in like that, man. You just can't do it. And again, he has room to improve. He has to learn how to pressure, but it got to be smart. I think anything else, just work on your defense. Work on your defense. I love me a guy or a boxer that knows how to attack the body. Female, whether you're female, male, whatever. I love a boxer that attacks the body. That is like one of my favorite things to watch. Like Naoya Inoue. He is one of the best body punchers in the sport right now. Much respect to him. I love the way he attacks the body like he did this weekend. You know, so I do enjoy watching Beck do it. But Beck does it in a way where he's still very limited. He showed us how limited he can be, you know? And I think that's why he got knocked out. And it was a vicious knockout. His butt was up in the air. You know, it was like, damn, like, yo. I mean, I was happy because I want Gabe to win, but I had no idea. I didn't think Gabe was going to win that fight, man. Charles Edward Cheese, appreciate the big donation. Charles says, YouTube tripping for anyone else, like not playing smoothly and buffering anyway. Can't wait for this Tank fight. All access got me hyped. Sad about Teal fight, shaking my head. COVID, leave us alone. Leave us all alone. Lastly, I was very disappointed in Jermall Charlo's performance. And we're going to get to Jermall Charlo. We're going to get to that last. That'll be the last thing I talk about because we're going to spend some time talking about Jermall Charlo. I want to knock out these other cards. Thank you again, Charles Edward Cheese, for the donation, man. Appreciate it. Lincoln Clay says Wave is literally a gangster. Wave just loves seeing people in agonizing pain. Chill, man. Chill. All right. But thank you again, Charles Edward Cheese, man. We're gonna get to Charlo. But anyway, back to Bully. He's not done. I just hope he works on what he needs to work on. Sometimes some people need a reality check. Like, yo, bro, your body shots are deadly. They're lethal. But protect yourself. You got to protect yourself. You know, Inoue, other fighter I'm going to talk about today, Inoue knows how to set it up. You got to set it up. You got to use your defense. All right. All these fighters have flaws, but you can't leave yourself totally exposed like that. All right. Congratulations to Gabe Rosado, man. One of my favorite fighters. You know, I've been making videos on Gabe since I've been on YouTube. I've been following him for a long time, and he needed this. This was his moment to me. I think the Danny Jacobs, you know, and Danny Jacobs is one of my personal favorite, just like Gabe. All right. I would like to go back and watch the fight again, you know, because Danny Jacobs is really, really my guy. But most people feel that Gabe won that fight. You know, I figured it was going to be a draw. But they gave it to Daniel, and I thought the way that they announced the winner was ridiculous. All right, but big shout out to Gabe Rosado, biggest win in his career, biggest moment in his career, I think, and you know, hard working and just, man, I love that dude, man. I really do, and I'm really, really, really proud of him. All right, so let's go to the next card. Let's go over the Inoue card real quick. There's not much there for me. And then we could get to the Jermall Charlo and the Anderson Silva thing, because I really want to talk about those. I want a little bit more people to come in too. So Inoue, let's talk about this card. Isaac Dobe for Adam Lopez, which was a very, very close fight. They gave it to Isaac Dobe. It was a very, very close fight. All right. First of all, let me say this. Since Dobe has lost to Navarrete, I like the way he boxes now. I'm very impressed in the way that he boxes. I thought this was going to be a hard fight. And to be honest, the way that he was fighting before, like the last time I seen him fight, I know he had a fight in between against, was it Chris Avalos? I can't remember who he fought recently. But he fought Navarrete. He lost to Navarrete. He came back and fought him in a rematch in a fight that I thought was too soon to take the fight. All right. Thought it was too soon. Was a bad idea from jump. But he comes to fight Adam Lopez. And let me tell you something. Before this fight, I was very, very worried about this fight because I saw what Adam Lopez was able to do with Oscar Valdez, right? Plus, Dobe moved up to 126. He was already small at 122. He gives up a lot of height. He gives it up, you know? So being that he's so short, I'm like, damn, why is he going up to 126? He should be at 122. I loved his boxing, especially in the first half of the fight. Loved it. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, you really belong at 122. You are a small guy, you know? And even if you're outboxing your opponent like Adams, I love the way Dope was setting up the shots. I love his pot shots, his counter, his movement. Everything was all good. But once Adam Lopez started walking him down, because he's the bigger, taller man, started walking him down, that's when Dope started having trouble. And he was getting outworked. And he must have lost like the last 4 rounds or so. Luckily for him, he picked up a lot of rounds early. Me personally, if it was up to me, I would have scored it a draw. I gave 1 round to Lopez in the first half of the fight and 1 round to Dogbay in the second half of the fight. So I scored it 5-5. I thought the fight should have been a draw, but they gave it to Dogbay. I'm not mad. The scorecards weren't brutal, but it was a very, I believe that he belongs at 122. You know, that's just the way I see it. The Mikaela Mayer Farias fight, that's the one fight here that I didn't watch all of the fight. All right, just didn't have enough time, and I wanted to get this video up today. I was trying to get through the whole fight. I didn't watch the entire fight, but from the little bit that I did see, the good 4 or 5 rounds that I watched, it was okay fight. I know Farias came down in weight. She hasn't fought. It's been shit. I don't think she's fought since 2019. All right. So being that she came down, I was expecting Mayer to win. You know, I know she was taller. I know she was rangier. Farias was coming off the loss of McCaskill and everything like that. So I wasn't expecting. Like, I would think McCaskill would, do better. So I felt that the fight could have been competitive, but I really wasn't expecting much from this fight. I'm still waiting for Mayer to fight like what's her name, Terry Harper or Pursoon. I would like those fights in that way. I think those 2 fights are cool. But outside of that, I see that she won the fight, but from what I saw highlights of the fight, and I saw like maybe the first 4 rounds. Wasn't really that impressed with it. She kept getting caught with overhand right counters, and wasn't really that impressed with her in that fight, to be honest. It wasn't a bad, like, from what I saw, it wasn't a bad performance, but the fight didn't really do much for me. But I just didn't have time to watch the entire fight. All right. And as far as Inoue against Michael Desmarinas, wasn't expecting much from that neither. Inoue is one of the best fighters in the world right now, one of the best active fighters in the world. Desmarinas, Filipino fighter, doesn't have much video on YouTube. I did look it up last week at some point just to see who this guy was that Inoue was fighting. It really would take Inoue to lose to one of the best. He can't lose to anyone other than some of the best fighters. I think at 122 would be very difficult for him. But something that he still may be able to be. Stephen Fulton would be a great fight. And those other guys up there at 122. But at 118, I just want to see him fight. Is it going to be Casemiro? Is it going to be Donaire? I don't know who. But at this point with Inoue, he did what he had to do this weekend. I mean, he destroyed this guy to the body. And this is what I'm talking about with Beck the Bully. You got to use smart pressure, and you got to know how to attack the body, but you got to do it and be defensive at the same time. You got to be worried about what's coming back at you. And Inoue is great at doing that. You got to pick your spots. You got to set up the right shots, the right counters. You just can't just be walking straight forward and just having your guard down. Inoue likes to set up. He's very patient, very relaxed. But every time the impact is what is so dangerous for him. He's such a good boxer, but it's when he lands, he makes it count every time. you know, and that's what makes him a top 5 pound for pound fighter in the world to me. All right. Thanks for everyone that's coming in, leaving comments, man. Just saw Rosado KO. Wow, that's embarrassing. Bless these fighters for sharing themselves to the world like this. Young Hollywood, what's good, Wade? What's good, brother? How you doing? Zone 6 is in the building. What's up, bro? Y'all been listening to you lately. I gotta jump in when you are on live. One of these days I'll do it. I almost jumped in the other day when you were on live, but I was running around. I was in my car. I'll check in with you though. I gotta jump on one of your lives, man. I'm glad you're back. Make sure you guys subscribe to Zone 6, one of the YouTube OGs. All right. He came in the same time I came in. All right. So make sure y'all check in with Zone 6. Check out his content. Real boxing fan. But yeah, I'll definitely jump on one of your lives. All right. I just, I'm really busy. I could barely manage putting up content myself, but shout out to Zone 6. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Mark, thank you for the donation. Munguia is Charlo's mandatory next. Who you got in that fight? I'm rooting for Munguia. Charlo just wants to sit and wait for Triple G and Canelo. Munguia would probably be more willing to unify with Bobo. But Boo, yeah. We're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit in this video, a little further down. Just give me a little bit of time. But I do definitely want to. But to answer your question, I didn't know, man, Munguia was Charlo's mandatory. I would like to see the fight. All right, that's one of the fights that I'm good with. I personally don't know how that would work, because you got to also think about, you got to think about it like this. Munguia is with Golden Boy. All right. And for the most part, I feel like he's kind of protected. They've been taking him slow. He's improving, but he didn't go in there with any real killers yet. All right. Still, with that being said, I didn't want Charlo to take this fight this past weekend. But at the same time, Charlo has still fought better fighters than Munguia at 154 and at 160. All right. So with that being said, I can't put all of it on Charlo. All right. I don't know if Charlo would take that fight. Would he take it? If it's available, I hope so. But would Munguia take it too? Would Munguia really pursue it? And if they do want the fight, if they do want the fight, what platform is going to be on? Hopefully it will work out. But I'm more thinking like the promoters might get in the way of that fight happening. I'm thinking about the promoters and networks more so than just the fighters. Because a lot of these times, I think that a lot of these fighters would take fights that maybe their promoter is not too fond of. All right. Yeah. So we'll talk more about that later in this video. All right. So yeah, let's go back to what I was saying with Inoue. It's all about a waiting game at this point. Inoue, we want to see him fight these other guys. And again, this is what I'm worried about. Inoue, he's done what he needed to do at ESPN. All right. He was on DAZN, right? Fought in the World Super Series tournament, right? He won that, beat Nair, right? Did his thing. He's unified. And now he's on ESPN. Now he's fought a couple good fighters. But what more can he do at 118 outside of fighting the guys that's on Showtime? Showtime has Rigondeaux, he's taking a step back now, and he's going to let Casemiro and he's going to let Donaire fight each other. Two Filipino fighters, right? They're going to fight each other now, all right, in August. And this is going to be a unification match. Is he going to fight the winner of that fight? What's going to happen with Rigo? Is he taking a step back now to fight the winner of this fight later? I would love for Inoue to fight Rigondeaux right now, since Rigondeaux is available. But from the report that I read, Rigondeaux is probably going to fight someone else on that same card on the undercard. All right. So look, I don't know what's going to really happen, but all I know when it comes to 118, unless it's one of the top guys at 115 that's going to move up, I really don't want to see Inoue fight anybody else other than the winner of that fight. You know, if not them, then maybe Rigondeaux, who's available for now, right? But he's PBC. So it's all about like networks, promoters, all that stuff. There's fights I want to see, but or even if the fighters are willing to face each other, are the promoters and the network gonna let that happen? You know, we know how boxing works. Zone, I don't know what time, but I know hit me on I don't know if you have I don't know what social media you have, but you know, I am on Instagram and I am on Twitter. All right. But hit me. We'll set up a day to go on there because I do want to jump on there with you on your live. All right. I meant to do it the other day while you were actually on, but it was kind of like on a fly type of thing. All right. Shout out to Zone again. All right. All right. So listen, let's go to let's move on. Let's talk Anderson Silva. Let's talk Anderson Silva, man, and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I didn't watch the whole Chavez Sr. fight. I just saw the highlights of it. I saw he was getting busy. I mean, the old man still. Chavez Sr. is great, man. You know, he's a great fighter, man, and he's still getting busy, and he still looks better than his son. It's crazy, right? But let's talk Anderson Silva against Julio Cesar Chavez. Wow. I didn't think Anderson Silva would win this fight. Because I'm looking at it like, all right, I know Chavez Jr. sucks, right? When it comes to a world class, like a world level, it's not that good. He hasn't been, and this coming from a fan of him. I was a fan of him for years. Even after the Sergio Martinez loss, I still wanted this guy to win. If you guys look, you go back and look, and you look at my prediction video with Canelo Alvarez, right? Chavez Jr. Very excited. I was so hyped for that fight. I was so happy to see that Chavez was motivated and he shredded. He cut the weight. He made the weight. I was so happy for Chavez, man. I wanted to see Chavez at his best. This is before the funny hair colors. Like Chavez seemed like he looked exactly how he looked when he was beating guys like Andy Lee and stuff. And even with the Sergio Martinez loss, I was a little annoyed with him because we got to see him on HBO 24/7. And we saw the fact that, you know, he wasn't really motivated. You know, he was acting like real spoiled. He was eating bad. And, you know, I think at that point, that's when I was like, yo, this dude's a clown. But before that, I like Chavez Jr. I had no issues with Chavez Jr. And he was fighting some decent fighters back then. But then after that, and then after the Brian Vera fights, and then he moved up to 168, and he just wasn't staying in shape. He started just being a clown. And he started quitting for stupid stuff. You know, it was just stop. He'll be in a fight. He'll be complaining. Anytime he gets hit in the head, he starts complaining. He looks at the ref. He was doing something in this fight. So you got Silva, who is a UFC and MMA god, right? He is a top 5 all-time mixed martial arts fighter. And in that game, he was one of the best strikers, right? Of ever. His boxing game as a UFC fighter was on point. He had experience of fighting. Like, he had a couple of pro fights. So it's not like he didn't have any experience of fighting. He just didn't fight on a world level. So coming into this fight, I'm like, man, he's like 46 years old. He's fighting Chavez Jr. Yeah, Chavez Jr. sucked, but Chavez Jr. has, you know, fought at a championship level. I'm thinking like, oh, man, like, I don't want to see Chavez Jr. knocking out Silva. Excuse me. Plus, it's a crossover fight, too. So you're like, man, I already see how this is going to go. Man, Anderson Silva looked 20 years younger in that fight. Anderson Silva looked so comfortable in the ring. Yeah, there was a few things like with, the way that he fights that was a little off. But Anderson Silva looked incredible against Chavez Jr. And I think after the first few rounds or so, he took off. And they even tried to rob him. I think one of the judges scored it for Chavez Jr. where it was clear that Silva was outboxing him and making him look easy. And I think the only time Silva kind of looked a little vulnerable is when he would back himself into the corner and Chavez Jr. would just draw a flurry of shots and he would connect with a few. And then Silva would just tie up at that point. But outside of that, when there was a distance between them, Silva was actually outboxing him. And he was landing clean shots, nice counters, nice setups, good jab, good hand speed. I was very impressed with Anderson Silva. And I would love to see him in another fight, another boxing match. I know him and Roy Jones were supposed to fight each other in a boxing match at some point, but I would actually be entertained by watching that fight, to be honest. Like no cap or anything like that. Like I would be entertained to watch that fight. Now I don't know where the weight is going to be at or anything like that. I don't know, but Anderson Silva did a great job. Obviously he can still do the MMA fights thing, and I went to his fight with I had the Silva fight with, was it against Cormier or Daniel Cormier, or I can't remember, one where Silva was past it, right? But he was fighting some of the younger guys, and I feel like in the MMA fight, people respect him too much to really go hard at him at this point, ever since the Weidman fight, So I feel like in the MMA side, people are not going to really go at him because they respect him too much. He's like a legend over there. But as a boxer in the ring, I would love to see him fight like one of these other guys that's probably retired, or I would love to see it because he proved to me in this fight that he can really box. And up to this point, I'm going to say that as far as the MMA fighters that crossed over and transitioned to boxing, I think I was the most impressed with Silva. And that's because Silva has boxing experience and he was the best striker over there. They called him the Matrix. His head movement when he was like young and still in his prime was crazy. His highlights are crazy. So I would love to see him fight more, over there in the boxing side. I would love to see it. I think in the MMA side, it's not much to really be done. You did what you did. You already solidified. You're one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. You're one of the top 3, so you don't really need to go over there. Make your money boxing. Let's get him in the ring with a top dude, and just let's get it done. All right. But yeah, he definitely outboxed Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr. at this point, I don't know if I said this on a live recently, but I can see Jake Paul finally fighting a boxer, and it's probably going to be Chavez Jr. I thought this like maybe a month or two ago. Like whenever he beat Ben Askren, I was like, people keep saying they want to see Jake Paul. Like if he is to beat Tyron Woodley, right? If he beats him, not sure if he will, but if he does, people keep saying they want to see him fight a real boxer. I bet you when it's that real boxer, I bet you it'll be Chavez Jr. I just got a feeling. Chavez Jr. can literally do what he wants with his name. He can keep losing and people will keep watching him. So I say Jake Paul against Chavez Jr. I think it's a possibility. That's all I'm saying. He fought Ben Askren. I can see him fighting Chavez Jr. Yeah, Jay Foreman. Exactly. Much props to Silva, much props to him. And I think I think he beats Woodley too. At first, I wasn't thinking so, but Woodley, I think Woodley fell off a little too hard, And as an MMA fighter, as a dangerous striker, he really just had that big overhand right. You know, if you really watch like his best wins against Josh Koscheck and what's this guy name? The bald fighter that he beat. If you look at all his fights, his run at welterweight as an MMA fighter, he was a big puncher. But as a boxer, going round by round, you know, working by hiding a jab and slipping shots and all. I don't know if Woodley would need a little bit more. Like, I believe more in Silva in the boxing ring than I believe with Tyron Woodley, even though he was a huge striker. And he is going to go down as one of the better welterweights of all time. Lawler. When he used to knock these guys out and drop them, it was off one big shot. But in boxing is different. It's different. And Jake Paul got more experience. Jake Paul, say what you want about him, he's a better boxer than you guys give him credit for, man. And he's much more experienced than you guys give him credit for. It's just that he hasn't fought a real pro boxer. And I agree with you. And I get that. But these MMA fighters that they're throwing in the ring with him, they're perfectly, like, they're doing is they know what they're doing. You're a fool if you think that this is not this matchmaking. It's not. It's scripted, basically. You know. And Tyron Woodley, yes, a big upgrade from Ben Askren, because Ben Askren was like literally like the worst striker in the UFC. But Tyron Woodley, much better striker. But Jake is catching him at the right time. It's all about time. He's catching him at the right time. You know, where, I don't know, it's believable. It's a chance that he could win the fight. But we'll see. You know, Tyron is training, he's preparing, and I think this is, you know, Tyron is much bigger upgrade than Ben Askren and Nate Robinson. All right. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. All right. So let's talk about Jermall Charlo and Juan Montiel. Before, let me bring up the Angelo Leo fight real quick. Let me just knock it out. Angelo Leo against Alameda. Leo's first fight since he lost to Stephen Fulton, which was one of the best fights. I think it was like right in the beginning of this year, either late last year or the beginning of this year. Credible fight. They both were undefeated. Very, very competitive fight. To be honest, I saw Alameda for his fight against Louis Neri, and I knew it was going to be a tough fight for Leo. But I can be honest and say that Leo really kind of underperformed to me. I think he did enough to win, barely, like really close, barely. But he definitely needs to improve on his defense, man, because Alameda was definitely outboxing him at points and catching him pretty easily. You know, he was definitely doing better with the counters, and he was definitely more accurate to me. You know, Leo outworked him for sure, which was expected, but you know, he definitely got to prove on his defense for sure. But I'm glad that he got his first win back. It was a tough fight to come back to after taking his first loss. Still a good fight, a very good fight. If you guys missed this fight, this is one of the better fights of the weekend. But I think Leo can definitely improve on some things. All right, because 122 is hot. It's on fire right now. It's good division, and I still would love to see like Louis Neri, if he doesn't go back down. You know, a lot of people feel that he should go back down since his loss to Figueroa. But if he doesn't go back down, I would love to see him fight Angelo Leo. You know, that would be a good fight. No Look Pass, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it for the donation. All right, so let's get into Jermall Charlo against Montiel. A lot to really talk about here. We're going to talk about the fight. Let's get into the fight first. Before we move into other opponents, things he said in his interviews. A lot of things that I'm going to say here, I already said before in previous videos. All right. Jermall Charlo, Montiel. This fight was a title defense for him, but it was also for the June 19th belt, which is a very beautiful belt, by the way. I saw when he put it on, the whole thing with the arms and chains, beautiful belt. I would have preferred this fight. I wish this fight was against Demetrius Andre, you know, another a Black American fighter. I would have preferred that. Okay, I think we all would have. I think it would have made much more. But Montiel, you know, it was all about the date. It is what it is. Montiel, I saw him fight and knock out James Kirkland. Saw that. But I knew James Kirkland was way past it. And I know James Kirkland is very chinny. If you catch him early, you can stop James Kirkland early. All right. We've seen him only lose a couple times, but we've seen him rocked and hurt early in a lot of fights. Some fighters wasn't able to put him away. But James Kirkland, if you've been watching him for years, like I have, you would know that he's extremely vulnerable early in a fight. So your best shot of getting him is early. Knock him straight out, because if you give him time, 4 or 5 rounds, all right, this guy's going to take over and he's going to destroy you. But James Kirkland, at this point, he's in his upper 30s. He hasn't been active. All right. And it was a win, but it was like, okay, well, James Kirkland got knocked out. That's that. It is what it is. Then you got Montiel. Saw his fight with Munguia. Munguia knocked him out 2 rounds. Straight rushed him. So I'm thinking, all right, well, I don't think Jermall's going to knock him out in like 1 round or anything like that. But I know Jermall Charlo is going to knock this dude out. All right. And this is all our impressions of going into the fight. This is not a fight that we were asking for, especially when you got Yuping, Andre, Triple G, you know, and all these guys at 168 whose name has to be mixed up with him, like Benavidez and Canelo. You got all of these guys, but we're getting a Montiel fight. Now, I know he beat Derevyanchenko, and he looked impressive doing it. All right. I paid for the pay-per-view. I supported him and Jermall. It was a good fight, and that was his biggest win at 160. And he looked very impressive against Derevyanchenko. But none of us asked for this fight with Montiel. You know, none of us ever asked for it. And this is not a fight that was supposed to be nearly as competitive as it was. Let's keep it real. The thing is, I'm a huge Jermall Charlo supporter. Those are my guys. Those are my dudes. But I have to be honest. All right? I have to be honest with him. Montiel had to be, as me, I've been watching Charlo pretty much his whole career. This must have been one of the toughest fights for him in his whole career. Now, I know guys like Derevyanchenko won rounds against him, right? I know guys like Austin Trout gave him a tough fight, thought it was a draw. I know he fought guys like J-Rock, who was boxing well. Yes, he knocked him out, but yeah. Montiel gave him one of the toughest, especially the last 4 rounds or so, 3-4 rounds. I would say from the 8th to the 12th round was highly competitive. And even before that, it was like outside of the 6th round where Jermall, I thought Jermall would stop him in that round because he hurt him a few times. I could not believe how hard Montiel was, how much he was bringing it to Jermall. Like, Jermall won majority of the rounds, absolutely. But he didn't dominate this guy in any sense. So let's start out from the beginning. Jermall Charlo early on, slow. Both of them. Montiel was definitely awkward. He was going back from righty to lefty. He was moving he was using a lot of lateral movement, right? Early on, he was using a lot of lateral movements, changing directions, feinting a lot, not really throwing much, right? And then there was times where he would just step in and smother Charlo, and Charlo doesn't like that, right? But he kept changing. He's just giving him different looks, but wasn't throwing much. So Charlo's is getting the rounds based off activity, but he wasn't landing anything solid himself because Montiel was, giving him some trouble, right? It was his awkwardness, right? But not a lot of action early on, right? So we giving Jermall Charlo rounds, but we're like, come on, what's going on? Like, what's going on? Like, Jermall had trouble following this guy. And then I want to say, fight is dragging, 6th round comes. Montiel would step in and work on the inside, give Jermall some trouble, right? Jermall was feeling uncomfortable with it, but Jermall would land a shot here and there and rocked him in that round, right? Rocked him like 3 times, just couldn't put him away. This is my problem because the second half of a fight is a whole different review. The problem I have with Jermall Charlo, anytime he rocks his opponent, first of all, he was all power. So I think mentally, Jermall Charlo is going in there like, I got to knock this guy out. I'm throwing nothing but power. Power jab, big right hands, big left hooks, all power. Very little setups. Very little setups. Charlo was not feinting. He wasn't probing no jabs. All power. Montiel, high guard, was doing good, blocking his punches, parrying the shots, coming in, smothering Charlo on inside. Charlo's not a great inside fighter. He's not. Charlo needs his space. The problem I have with Charlo mainly, bro, set up the shots, probe the jab, then throw the right hand up top or to the body. Body was completely exposed. He went to the body a couple times here and there, but probe the jab. Just stop coming in with power. Stop trying to force the knockout. This guy is not a guy that you're going to just knock out easily. Yes, we know Jaime Munguia did it because Jaime Munguia is a different type of fighter. He rushes in. He's aggressive. This fight was 4 years ago. You're not going to do what Jaime Munguia did. It's not going to work that way. I know you're in Houston. I know it's a big fight. Your peoples are with you. It's Juneteenth. But you got to fight smart. You got to set up the shots. You can't just put so much in your power. It's not going to work. When you fight Benavidez, when you fight Canelo, if you were to fight these guys, Andre, Triple G, if you were to fight these guys, you got to set it up. You can't just put power down in every single punch you throw. That is the problem. Montiel was able to parry those shots easily. And he didn't have to work. He didn't have to worry about you going to the body because you wasn't going to the body enough. You have a beautiful jab. Why are you throwing jabs to the body? Why are you changing levels? Give him something else to think about so he can drop that guard. All right. So, boom. 6th round, hurts him a few times. Going to the second half of the fight. Speaking on Canelo, because people talk about Canelo. He wants the Canelo fight, right? Wants a Canelo fight. Montiel was doing something that I noticed, and I've said that Canelo is great at doing this. Canelo is Canelo's pressure at times is kind of like an illusion because Canelo is walking you down, but he's not throwing anything. But he's coming. He's just closing the gap. He's closing in on you, but he's not throwing anything. Now, when he does, it's accurate, usually to the body. You know what I'm saying? He makes the punches count when he does throw them, but he's not throwing a lot. Montiel was putting pressure on Jermall, and Jermall, while Montiel was smothering him, Jermall was doing more work, burning himself out. from the 7th to the 8th to the 9th to the 10th, Jermall Charlo is fighting, but he doesn't have the power. He doesn't have the stamina. And Montiel was putting pressure on him, smothering him without even throwing many shots. Now, when he was doing it, he was making it count. But Jermall is burning himself out because he's desperate for a knock. He's clearly desperate for a knockout. Desperate. Throwing nothing but power, not setting up anything. And Montiel now feels comfortable because you don't have that same kind of power you had earlier in the fight. So now I'm getting in your space. I'm not giving you any space. I'm going to keep pressuring you. I'm going to be on the inside. Yeah, I'm going to throw my shots here and there. But he's making Jermall work harder than he needs to, right? Jermall's a flat-footed fighter as well as that. He's not going to be doing too much movement, all right? Jermall is the other brother has always been much lighter on his feet, all right? Especially back then before he changed trainers, because back then Jermall was such an outside fighter, all right? So Montiel is bringing the pressure. If you were to fight Carmelo, thinking of Carmelo Anthony now. If you were to fight Canelo's going to be doing the same thing. But Canelo has power. Canelo can move his upper body. All right. Canelo is better at his timing and his counters. All right. So these are things that you're going to need to worry about. Yeah, Canelo's going to let you work like Kovalev. Kovalev's trying to stay on the inside. Kovalev is a guy, is a 1-2 fighter, beautiful jab, big right hand, similar to Charlo, right? He's taller, you know, he's the guy with the longer arm. He's trying to keep Canelo out. But Canelo, what is he doing? He's coming in, he's pressuring. He's just staying in his space. He's stalking him. Stalking just wears you out. It would wear you out because you're doing so much to keep this guy off of you. You have to keep moving. You have to keep throwing punches. You're trying to gain respect from your opponent. And this is what Charlo is doing. Now, notice that Montiel, by the second half, he felt comfortable in Jermall's space. Jermall didn't have anything to keep him away. And the power, the impact wasn't there anymore. And then the 8th round came. The 8th round was Montiel's biggest round. You know, he even made Jermall stumble a little bit. He was all in there. And ever since that round, all the rounds after that were competitive. It was competitive. You know, this is why Jermall got cut, eyes swollen. Might be his hardest fight. I'm not saying that, yes, Trout, Deverenchenko won more rounds against Charlo, for sure. But this guy made Jermall, he's breathing out of his mouth. He's tired. Looks vulnerable. Darren there at times looked like he was losing a fight. You know? This is what happens. This is what happens when you fight guys that you think you're just going to walk over. No, this guy, he see what's going on. He's seeing what people say. This guy is motivated. And you're not as motivated because you're fighting a step down from your previous opponent. You know, you still feeling that high from that Deverenchenko fight. A guy that many people believe that was going to beat you. You know, and that's one thing I noticed too about a lot of these fighters like Jermall Charlo. When it's time to step up, like it was when he fought J-Rock, where people was 50-50, you know, J-Rock was the better boxer. Jermall had the bigger power. He was bigger. Going into that fight back then, it was 50-50. So now you working like, this guy can beat me. Same thing with Deverenchenko at 160. You going into the fight like, this guy can beat me. You know? And before you know it, this guy is putting the pressure on you. If there was a Sean Porter kind of fighter at 160, Jermall would have been in trouble that night. If there was a Sean Porter style it would have been a rough night for Jermall. It would have been. EK said I'm being a little too harsh. He will rise on a better opposition. Well, that's the point that I was making when I said J-Rock and Derevyanchenko. Jermall rises to the occasion when the tougher fights come. So I do believe that when he fights Canelo, if he did ever fight Canelo, if he ever fought Benavidez, if he ever fought Andre, he would step up. But what I'm saying is this fight, I'm not being harsh. I give criticism to the people that I love. And that's a problem. I give criticism to the people, to anyone that needs to get it. Period. There's no fanboy in here. You could be my favorite fighter in the world. I am going to give you the criticism because you need it. A lot of these boxers listen to these videos. Okay, they do. And I'm speaking in the sense that if he were to watch this, this is what he would need to hear. You know? So with that being said, tough fight. It was a tough fight. Hopefully it was a learning experience, just like Matthew Korobov. Another fight that we didn't expect much from, but we forgot that Korobov was a great champion. We forgot that, or you know, he was a great amateur, and he was a former champion. All right. He lost to Andy Lee and kind of disappeared for a minute. These guys put him on a card as a replacement fighter. And now this guy, as a southpaw fighter, is kind of exposing Charlo because he's so accurate with that straight left. You know? Another thing, what's it called? Brandon Adams. Brandon Adams was not winning that fight at all. But his movement gave Charlo a lot of trouble. Charlo just could not connect. You know, he couldn't deal with a guy that moved so much and so well. He couldn't deal with it. Gave him trouble. You know, so we got to understand, yeah, Charlo looked better against the better fighters he faced. Montiel is not that. All right. But when he has these fights too, he can't underestimate these fighters that are lower on a lower level. He can't. He can't. And that's what I saw in this fight. All right. All right. So let's talk about Charlo and him moving forward because he's getting killed now because of what he said in these interviews and stuff. He's, you know, I didn't like what he said about Andrade. And if you are new here, you know my stance on the Andrade fight. I love Charlo. I would root for him to beat anybody at 160. That's who I'm rooting for. But it makes no sense that him and Demetrius Andrade can't fight each other. This makes no sense. And to say that Montiel got to beat, or Andrade got to beat Montiel now in order to get, you know, maybe you'll fight him. Like shit like that, that's not cool. That's not cool. All right. Neither one of you guys have fought the very, very best, the very super elite at 160. And I know you both want Triple G. Yeah, Triple G has never shown interest in fighting Charlo or Andrade. All right. And I don't give him a pass for that. All right. I don't give him a pass for fighting Steve Rolls and Szeremeta. I don't give him a pass for those fights. All right. I don't even give him a pass for the fact that he's just being inactive and he's not fighting. He's fighting like once a year now. All right. So I get that, but Triple G did put in his work. He did put in his work. I would love Triple G to fight you, but if Triple G doesn't fight you, if Canelo doesn't fight you, there's still a lot of other fighters that you can take that are better than guys like Montiel. It is what it is. If you don't fight Andre, you should be fighting Andre because that's a unification. If Triple G is going to fight Murata next for a unification, there's no reason why you can't fight Andre, especially with the money that they throwing at you. That should be going down. I don't know if that's a PBC thing. I don't know if you're in a contract where you can't go to DAZN. I don't know what that's about. But all I know is that the Andre fight should be happening, man. We all want it. I mean, whether you are a Charlo fan or a hater, no one would be mad at that fight. No one is complaining. No one's saying and Charlo shouldn't fight Andre. And if you are, something seriously wrong with you. Like, for the fact that they have real tension, you know, like Daniel Jacobs, you have real tension. There's no reason why an Andre fight or a Jacobs fight, or, you know, those fights shouldn't be happening. We should be getting those fights, you know, and I'm not going to give them a pass for that. Even if I'm a fan of yours, much respect, but you should be fighting Demetrius Andre. You know, I mean, the guy is a champion, you're a champion. What is the problem? What is the problem? You know, sorry, these ambulances coming by, but there should be no problems with making that fight at this point. Yusuf, thank you for the donation. He says, why isn't Charlo calling out Boo Boo, and says he wants to unify? I really, really, really want to see that fight. Yes. Yes. We want to see. This is not no hate. Like, we want to see the fight. This is a fight that could have happened at 154. And I know Andre screwed that up. I knew Andre didn't take the Showtime deal. I know he was supposed to fight Jermall Charlo. But this was in 2014, man. This is in 2014. This is years ago. All right? We're not going to live and die off that. We got to move on. We got to move on. All right? And Jesus Christ, something's going on out there. Hopefully it's not like by my building. So moving forward, I'm trying to wait for this noise to go down. Give me a second. All right. What was I saying? All right. The thing is, if you're not going to fight Andre, and I think it's pretty much unacceptable at this point. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I can't. I have to be real. Charlo and Andre not fighting each other like ever is totally unacceptable. When I listen to Charlo speak in his interviews, it sounds like he's very comfortable with just taking these fights where, like, you know, he's fighting his mandatories and he's like, these are like cruise control fights. He sounds very comfortable with these type of fights. And it seems like it's really no shame. Like, he'll take one tough one here and there, but he sounds like he's very comfortable. You know, that's what I meant to say. I don't think he really is trying to fight. Like, he says Triple G and Canelo, but, you know, he doesn't seem that any other tough fight in between those two is even worth it. You know, he just doesn't. I don't think he really cares like that. I think he really just is cool with being a champion, defending his title, and fighting halfway decent guys. You know, I hate to say it, but this is basing off the interviews and stuff that he gives us. You know, when he's asked on who you want to fight, saying Triple G and Charlo is, who doesn't call them out at this point? And again, I would love for Triple G to fight Charlo. I would love for him to do it. I wish he would. Triple G has never shown any interest in fighting Charlo. But Triple G just still went on to fight Canelo. He went on to fight Daniel Jacobs. He went on to fight David Lemieux. He went on to fight Derevyanchenko before Charlo did, you know, before, you know, after him having this one close fight loss to Daniel Jacobs. So what I'm trying to say is, I think Charlo is very comfortable with just taking a fight and defending his title. You know, it is what it is. And there's a lot of boxers today that are like that. And I think he's one of them. So this is why I don't go hard on fighters that just in cruise control. He's chilling. He seems to be very fine and content with where he's at. Thank you, Omar, for the donations. Omar says, I feel like if Jermall really wanted to fight Andrade, he wouldn't make excuses. Jermall seems like he is more willing to take risk and chase greatness. And thank you for the donation. I think what Jermall is, I think Jermall has always had this, it's just like brotherly competition. You know, I think his brother always pushed him to be better, because once upon a time, most people respected Jermall more than Jermall because he had the power, especially when they were both at 154, right? Like Jermall, people like Jermall, but people like Jermall much more because, you know, he was a bigger, stronger Charlo. And what happened was Jermall moved up at 160, but at a time when Canelo was there, Triple G was there, Daniel Jacobs was there, these guys were all fighting each other. He wasn't getting in the mix with all of these guys. And then Andre moved up as well, but these two still wouldn't fight each other. So it was just like a stalemate. He was fighting all of these guys that no one wanted to see him face. Dennis Hogan, Brandon Adams, Montiel, all of these guys. And Jermall stayed at the division. Now, for the guys that didn't move up, Jermall had to deal with. Now, he didn't fight all of them, right? He didn't fight all of these guys, but the guys that were champions, the guys that he had to beat, he fought, plus his mandatories. And it goes to show, like, I think Jermall was always like, he had to grind for his respect more because he had to grind more for his respect because so much more people respected Jermall, you know? So Jermall was pushing and pushing. Now Jermall is one title, one fight away from being undisputed, you know? And I think that's what it is, you know, where Jermall's is kind of like laid back, chilling, like, you know, I'm successful and I'm just kind of like, you know, I'll take a fight here and there. But I think him not fighting Andre is just criminal at this point, man. For a boxing fan, like, it's criminal. Shout out to Boxing Beats and Roz, man. One of the greatest challenges on YouTube. Straight up. Learned a lot from this brother. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Beat says Moore got confidence issues. Yeah. You know, and I kind of agree. You know, I just think that he's just in cruise control. I think it may be confidence, but I think it also could be just, you know what? I'm a champ. I'm getting paid. I don't need to be chasing all these dudes that I can possibly lose to. It is what it is. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. I'm very disappointed, but I already expressed my disappointment with him not fighting Andre. You know, I think he really should be fighting Jacob too. You know, that back and forth they had in the arena, I'll never forget that shit. I just watched it like a few weeks ago because it was entertaining. It was so good. Two of my favorite fighters like going back and forth. That's how I felt with Errol and Crawford. You know, when I saw them in the back area going back and forth, talking trash to each other, I got excited. But then when they never fought each other, it kind of made me feel like, damn, like, what was all that for? You know? Shout out to Angel. Thank you for the donation. Keep up the great content. Thank you very much. So moving forward with Jermall, I mean, I want Andre, but I'm tired about it. I made a lot of videos on this fight. And It really doesn't make sense. You know, it really hurt me. I think what hurt me the most when I heard him say that Andre had to fight Montiel first. I was like, damn, man. Like when I heard that, I was just like, damn, like we're never gonna get that fight. You know, we're never gonna. It's over. It's over. Once he said that, I said he don't have no interest in fighting Andre. Seriously, you know. So anyway, you know, I think if he doesn't fight Andre, like I said, Eubank Jr. would be cool. I think there was a possibility that they would fight each other before when Eubank was on PBC for that short period of time. Nothing happened. Nothing came out of it. As far as Benavidez, you're going to get attacked by the Benavidez fans too because of the call out, you know, because of the call out. And Benavidez would be a tough fight. It would be a tough fight. You know, it would be a tough fight. That's a tough fight for Jermall. But Jermall normally rises to the occasion whenever he steps up, which is cool. So I'm not going to base his performance against Benavidez off the Montiel fight, you know, because I know he steps up when he steps up. But Benavidez is a different kind of beast. So yeah, I guess that's all I really got to say about Jermall Charlo. I just think he's chilling, and I think his brother is really chasing greatness, and I'm really interested to see what his brother is gonna do, if he is to win this fight and after he wins the fight. He said Andre being a great fighter is cap though, right? Well, listen, Andre got a lot to prove too. Andre is a really good fighter, but I still haven't seen much, like, as far as him. I need to see him fight better opposition too. They both do. They both do. And Andre has ruined fights and from happening in the past. So he deserves criticism as well. But I'm not going to sit here and act like that there's fighters that didn't avoid him, like Canelo. Canelo could have fought him. Canelo was one belt away for fighting him. And people like to say, well, he lost a belt. He got stripped from a belt. Yeah, he got stripped from a belt. But, you know, at the same time, if your goal was to chase undisputed from, because remember, Canelo really never had any interest in fighting Andre. Let's be real about it. He did. He didn't have any interest in fighting Andre. He didn't have any interest. All right. If he was chasing undisputed at 160, like the way he is at 168, the fight would have happened eventually. Maybe not at 154 because Andre did eventually get stripped. But at 160, he would have definitely fought. You know, but he moved up to 168 for all these other guys, which is cool. But Andre, yeah, he avoided certain fights. He didn't take certain fights that could have definitely helped his career. But at the same time, there are fighters that also could have fought him that didn't fight him. You know, it is what it is. So listen, I'm gonna stop it right there, man. Been on for an hour and a half. I should be putting out the Tank Davis fight breakdown tomorrow. By the afternoon, that should be out. And the other one, the Lomachenko Nakatani breakdown as well. So I got to do both breakdowns. So I'm going to try to either put both of them out by tomorrow or do one by tomorrow and then the other one the next day. All right. Ty Hill, thank you for the donation, man. Thank you very much. Been wanting to give you props for your Wilder video post the other day. You broke that situation down perfectly with facts. Will you be doing live commentary on any of the fights this weekend? Yes, I'm doing the live commentary on both of the fights this weekend. I just hope that both fights don't overlap each other. As far as the Wilder video, I'm still getting a ton of comments for it. I kind of stopped responding to the comments. But I know what it is when you make certain Wilder videos or certain, it's not just Wilder. You make something really clear. I got a few more minutes, so don't go away yet. Let's make something really clear when it comes to fanboys. Fanboys are fanboys universally. I don't do the whole these fanboys are worse than these fanboys. No, fanboys are guys that no matter what the fighter does, no matter how many times they contradict themselves, they're going to back that fighter 100%. All right. They're above criticism. All right. That annoys me. Wilder is not the only fighter that has fanboys. There's Wilder. There's every fighter has them, where they just say they never criticize them. There's channels that's here that no matter what the fighter does, they are going to defend anything they do, even if it's totally against what they said yesterday. All right. So people think that I pick on Wilder specifically, right? But when I do a video about someone else, they think I'm picking on them too. It's just is what it is. I'm going to say it how I see it. And that's what I did in that video. I say things what I see. This is what I see, and this is what I heard the man say. All right. So on the Wilder situation, and I meant to bring up this point, but it was a lot because I'm just going off, off top and stuff. The Wilder situation, this is the one issue that I have. And this is for his biggest supporters out there. Since he lost to Fury in the second fight, I've made videos on what I think he can do in order to win the third fight. I've made videos talking about who I think he should fight in between, just in case they don't have a fight right away. When it comes to Wilder and his fanboys, all they say is that Fury cheated for both fights, right? Both fights. I have yet to hear anyone bring up a real thorough video or anything just talking about what Wilder can do to improve in the third fight. I'm still waiting for that. I have not read a comment from a Wilder fan and supporter just saying, all right, you know what? Wilder lost, but in this fight coming up, if he had worked on this or if he did that better, or I don't hear that. All I hear is Wilder was cheated both times. I don't hear anything else. And you are pretty much underestimating your opponent when you believe that you only lost a fight because the person cheated you. When people just tell you that and they're not saying like what you can do in your arsenal and your game plan to do better, I have a problem with that. This is why Jermall says, I totally understood Jermall when he said what he said in his video, when he said skills pays the bills. Because none of these people are talking about what Wilder needs to do to improve. Okay? That is the difference. It's not picking on Wilder. What can Wilder do? You guys are all saying the same thing. Glove this. Spike water that. Mark Breland this. This guy had loaded gloves in a rematch. It was a long count in the first fight. I hear everything but what Wilder needs to work on in order to win the next fight. And that's what I have a problem with. So instead of just saying cheated, cheater, white this, yada, 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 let's start saying, all right, well, you know what? This fight is now scheduled. It's coming up. What can Wilder do to improve this next fight? Since the guy cheated him before, okay, fine. Fury cheated both times. If that's your way of thinking, cool. But what can Wilder do against this cheater in order to win the third fight? I'm still, I have not read, I've read thousands of comments on my videos and have not read one about what Wilder needs to do in the actual fight to win the fight. And that's what's sad. How do you be mentally prepared for your next upcoming fight when everybody is telling you that you lost because you was cheated. How do you prepare for that? Yep, you're totally removing the actual preparation for a boxing match. That's my logic. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. I'm just telling you how I see it. He cheated you 2 times, but guess what? You're fighting him again for a 3rd time. What can you do differently in order to win the fight? Because both fights, the first 2 fights, were different fights. We know Fury is the better boxer between the 2, right? We can all agree with that. Even if you're a Wilder fan, you would agree with that Fury is a better boxer, but Wilder has the power. He's explosive. So with that being said, what can Wilder do? You're going to hear it from me because I'm going to break down the fight like I normally do with every fight. But what do you guys have in order outside of just Fury cheated? Horseshoes, loaded gloves, spiked water, all those things. Mark Brilliant should have thrown in the towel. You know, all these people, you know, the Darrell brother said something in the crowd. I'm hearing all of these things outside of what Wilder needs to do to have a better chance to win in the 3rd fight. I see him training. He looks motivated. And I do believe that sometimes, you know, certain people like Beck the Bully got knocked out this weekend. You know, sometimes that shit got to happen in order you to understand that you're not invincible. You know, what's always worked may not always work. So maybe it's time to change the game and work on some other things. And it's good that him and Malik said in his interview that all these things he see from Wilder that they're working on with Wilder, he's always seen it. All right. But he's trying to make it, he's trying to make it muscle memory. And that's the thing. We've seen in Wilder fight where he's down on points. Gerald Washington, Arthur Spilka. All right. Luis Ortiz rematch. All right. We've seen fights where boxing wise didn't look too good. He didn't look too good. But what did he do? He still got the right hand in there, connected, and won the fight anyway. Didn't have to go to the scorecards. All right, but now you're fighting a guy that you may not be able to knock out. Remember, in that rematch, Wilder landed a few big right hands. All right, didn't hurt, didn't face Fury at all. Fury just kept coming. So what is the plan B if you can't get that one punch to land? What else are you going to do? Hopefully they're working on that. Hopefully it'll be better for them in one training camp. We don't know. We just got to wait and see. I'll speak on it more. I'll probably make a separate video because I know a lot of people are not going to see this. I'm only you guys, 120 of you that's here is going to see that. But I'll definitely address this in further videos. All right. But yeah, you know, that's all I wanted. All I hear is everything else outside of the ring. All that noise from outside. All that stuff that's all a distraction. Okay. We saw what happened in the ring that night. And Wilder didn't win neither one of those fights. One was a draw, one was a victory for Fury. What are you going to do different in order to secure the win? And stop talking about all this stuff with AJ, yada, yada, yada. What are we going to do? All right. All right. So anyway, I'm out of here, man. Thank you again for everyone that tuned in. I will definitely be here Saturday to do commentary for the fight. And look out for those breakdowns, man, with Tank and Lomachenko. All right. I got those coming on the way too as well. All right. But I got to get out of here. Peace.